Hey, this is Eric Davis. Let's chop it up. Listen, I wanted to come on real quick from the thought of, do you trust and how do you trust? All right. And I know for us as men, that is a thing. I don't think people really understand what it is for us when we trust someone, when we are open with someone, when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with someone and we trust them. And I know a lot of times we see it, I follow certain people on social media and they talk about relationships and they're talking about the strength of man, and we always get to the point of trust. And I don't think people really understand when you break the trust of a brother, of a man, it does something. All right. We shut down, we turn off because we have allowed ourselves to be vulnerable. All right. We've allowed ourselves to be open with you. We've allowed ourselves to consider you a safe space. All right. When we don't feel like we're safe in that space, then we're going to shut it down. All right. So, and if you might want to sit down and share this with your spouse, your significant other, some people in your lives. If we feel like we can't trust you, then we're going to shut down on you. All right. When men feel like they cannot be vulnerable, they don't feel like they're safe, then we 9 times out of 10 will shut down. We'll move on. We'll figure out a way that we don't have to deal with what we're dealing with. All right. So you really need to think on those things. How do you communicate? All right. Are you in a safe space? I know we talked about that a while back in some of the earlier posts. How do you communicate in your relationships? Well, it is key. All right. I think that's something we need to continue to talk about. How do we communicate? How do we deal with certain people? I think it's key because sometimes the people that are around us are the people that shape how we communicate, how we react, how we respond. All right. We don't want anyone pouring into us something that we don't need in us, that we're going to regurgitate. We're pouring into us that's going to feed us. All right. So we got to be careful in our communication and our general conversation. Yeah, it's okay to cut up. It's okay to chop it up. Listen, I love to cut up more than anybody else. All right. My people will tell you, we got to be mindful of who we allow to pour into us. All right. Because everybody that's pouring into you, all right, their hands ain't clean. All right, let's put it like that. All right, when they cooking, their hands might not be clean, and you might get sick off of it. All right, so you got to be careful who you allow to pour into you. That's just real talk. All right, so dealing with communicating and making sure that we are in a safe space is vital. How do we handle when our trust has been broken? And that's even in relationship. How do we handle when our trust is broken? It takes a minute. You have to forgive first of all. That's key. That is the key point. You have to forgive, you have to communicate, and you have to let them know, listen, right now, you got to work back. You got to work that thing back up. It is what it is. Don't sugarcoat it. All right. Don't sugarcoat it, none whatsoever. Let that individual know, listen, man, right now I can't rock with you. That is what it is. We hear it in the streets all the time, but I can't rock with you right now because you have done something. You've caused a tear in our relationship because I trusted you, whether it be with information, whether it be just as a friend. I trusted you with something and you broke that trust. Listen, and if you've ever done it, you understand how vital it is, and you understand you got to work your way back to it, especially in relationships. Trust is key, because when trust is broken in relationships, it damages it to the core. All right. So now you're dealing with a whole bag of emotion. Now you got to work through that thing. Now you got to see if it's worth being in the relationship. Listen, if you can't trust them, why be there? That's just key. All right. Then you have those that, trust has been broken. They've forgiven and they've moved on. They've gone past it. They've done the best they could to get past it. And when that trust is continually broken, then, that's your decision whether you stay or go. All right. Forgiveness is a big thing because you have to forgive, because we have made mistakes and people have forgiven us for the mistakes that we've made. All right. So we're not perfect, but we have to make sure that we understand, especially with dudes, when your trust is broken, how do you handle it? All right. How do you handle it? So we need to make sure, first of all, that we get with ourselves. That's key. Get with yourself. All right, sit down, think on that thing. Was that somebody that really I should have been trusting in the first place? How do you handle that? All right. Then you got to forgive. All right. Not only forgive that person, but forgive yourself. All right. So that is key. So make sure that we are sitting down with ourselves, all right? We understanding what's going on around us, who we have in our lives. Sometimes you need to do an inventory of who you got in your life. All right, let's just be upfront and honest about it. Who have you allowed to come into your circle? All right, Judas was in Jesus' circle. All right, so you gotta make sure that you do an inventory of who's in your life. And even Judas served a purpose. All right, so you need to check on that. Judas even served a purpose. So some people in your life serve a purpose. All right, so they help you build that fortitude for what you're going to have to deal with later on and who you're going to be dealing with later on in your life. Make sure that you're understanding who's in your life. How do you handle when your trust is broken? I think that's vital and that's key. And that's something we're going to be talking about in our upcoming live event on March the 15th. So I need you to look forward to that. But make sure that you are doing an inventory of who you got in your life, who you dealing with, who's bringing value to your life, and who's taken away from your life. You know, it's a conversation I had with someone, and we'll talk on that on an upcoming topic. So I think it's vital that we understand and come to a sense of everyone that's with us is not for us. All right. So some people are just along for a ride, and some people just going to see what they can get out of you. And then they're going to move on to the next thing. And some people really want to see you fall. They want to stay close enough to hear it, see it, and when it happens, they can talk about it. All right, so let's not even give them the opportunity. All right, so I want you to follow me on all social media platforms. Just want to come on and talk about that. How do we handle when our trust is broken? All right, because men are, we can get real funny. We can get real funny. All right, we can get kind of dogmatic when that trust is broken. We want to have nothing to do with you. All right. So we want to make sure that we are being mindful about who we allow in our circle, who we allow in our safe space. All right. So I want you to think on those things. Follow me on all social media platforms, man. I appreciate everybody. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate all the likes, appreciate all the subscriptions, like, share, keep sharing. We're going to keep putting out this content. We're going to keep making changes in the lives of people. All right. Real men, real conversation, real results. And I appreciate you so much. God bless you. Have an outstanding day. We'll chop it up with you soon. All right. Take care.